I am thrilled. I'm going to bring up all of our speakers tonight and we will start introducing them. So, first, I'm going to bring up Angela. Angela is the owner of Bamboo, which is I'm going to make sure I'm saying this properly. Okay. She is the owner and founder of Bamboo, which offers eco-friendly bamboo linen and self-care solutions, helping customers achieve a restful sleep. And then I've got Robin here. I'm going to add Robin. Robin is actually online. She's known at Pull Ups Pasta Politics on Instagram and TikTok, and she owns Robin's Area, which is a US based product design firm. And she does a lot of supply chain navigation, like everyone else on this call tonight. And then, not least, we have Emily that I'm bringing up. And Emily is the founder of Simplified, which is a best-selling brand of planners and organizational tools that can be found online in a bunch of stores like Target, Walmart, Office Depot. She also has the #1 parenting Substack in the US. So we will have links to all of this that you can check out. But I don't think I did justice to explaining your businesses. So I'm going to turn that over to you all to start. So, Robin, you're right below me on the screen. I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your business? What do you do? How long have you been in business? Who your customers are?
Sure. So I've been in business for about 15 years. I own a product design firm. I create mostly products for the home as well as for pets. And so I manufacture products here in the US as well as overseas. And I'm a member of the National Retail Federation. And when I first started 15 years ago, I was part of a mom entrepreneur group, and it was all women that had invented unique products, and we helped each other get our unique products to market. So it was a great connection.
I love that. Women helping women. That's amazing. All right, Angela, tell us a little bit about Bamboo and how it all
Absolutely.
started.
That's okay. So my name is Angela Hawkins. I'm the owner and founder of Bamboo. So my company is a sleep company. We offer our customers products that will get them the rest they need so they can live the lives they want. And our primary products are made of bamboo. We are located in Atlanta, Georgia, primarily e-commerce. I am also a member of the National Retail Federation, and we've been in existence for 7 years, a little over 7 years, and happy to be here.
Thank you. So really glad to have you all here. And Emily, tell us about Simplified.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. I started Simplified in 2008, so I've been in business about 100 years at this point. We make beautiful planners and paper goods for busy women. And like you mentioned, you can find them in Target and Walmart and other stores. We are also the lead plaintiff in the first lawsuit that was filed in April challenging the legality of the tariffs and how they were implemented. And so we have been working hard to spread the news about how these tariffs are impacting everybody. And I'm just glad you're doing this.
Thank you. Well, okay, we'll stick then with you, Emily, since you were
Yeah.
just speaking. So before the tariffs became a major issue, how was your business doing? Like, what were your growth plans? What were your goals?
2025 was going to be a banner year for us. We had a ton of growth opportunities. We were expanding into Amazon. We were reopening our wholesale program that we shut down a few years ago. Um, it was gonna be a great year. And then the tariffs happened. We had been surviving the tariffs, since 2018 when they were first implemented in a different way. But we've paid almost $1.2 million in tariffs since the first ones were implemented, and we were looking at paying anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million in tariffs this year. We produce everything in China, and we first produced our products in the United States, but they cost $38 a unit to make, and we sell them for 54, so it just wasn't profitable. So it's really flipped everything on its head this year, raising prices, reducing staff. It's not been fun.
Okay, and we definitely want to get into the impact on your businesses, but I'll go back to you, Angela. How were things before this year, before these tariffs were implemented? How were things going for Bamboo?
Honestly, I thought that I was noticing that the bedding industry was kind of like the canary in the coal mine, and specifically with eco-friendly products because, like Emily, we're also produced in China. Since the start of Bamboo, we have we have looked at trying to produce in the United States. That was always top of my list for risk and mitigation was government tariffs and interference when it came to importing. So when we first looked, there was no real options because of the fact that I use bamboo fabrics, and that is my customer promise to offer good quality bamboo. And if we can't make it with the same level of quality, then we're going to go, to China where it's being manufactured. They've been doing it for decades now, and they have mastered the process. So we knew that the market was trending down for us in 2024, 2025. Like I said, we were almost a canary in a coal mine. The industry was kind of bouncing along the bottom, but we had projections to see it come up after the elections. And that was what we kept kind of, banking on. Okay, after the elections, when things settle down, we will come back around to something that's more normal. And normal for us, was a really decent trajectory. But as soon as we started hearing rumblings of the tariffs, this was right before the election, and we said, okay, well, if it's a possibility that we may come into this and not knowing what that tariff was going to be. No one ever projected that it was going to be 145% coming out the gate. But not knowing what it was going to be, I started to dial back on our orders just because our production time is long. And I knew that the production would complete about the time that the new administration would be installed. So I wanted to give it a beat. But that meant that we were going to impact our spring line. And then lo and behold, here comes April, exactly when we were going to be receiving that. We would have just been receiving most of our shipments. And I'm almost glad that I didn't put that order in, but at the same time, it's impacting our current inventory levels. So right now, our 2025 is not going to come in anywhere near where we thought it would be. And not because of lack of customers. Consumer confidence was low before, but it was coming back. It's because now of the tariffs. So we kind of got pinched in the middle. We could have implemented our plan for 2025 inventory and then, kind of been squished in the middle with having a lot of inventory and no means to sell it because of consumer confidence and high tariffs. So it's been a really inconsistent strategic year. We had our strategy coming in and it was completely turned on its head when all these decisions were made.
Definitely. Yeah. And I know we're going to get into a lot more discussion about like the impact of the tariff. So Robin, how about you? What was your plans? What were you thinking for 2025?
So I was in a full growth mode. My daughter had just left for college, so I had a lot more time on my hands to run the small business. I was expanding the product line. I had scheduled trade shows, not only in the US, but also in Europe. I was hiring additional graphic designers, and I had opened up another small warehouse. And so a lot of that has been put on hold now, but we were really in this like growth mode. And because I don't know if I can manufacture some of the products that I would be designing and sourcing, that's, just caused me to have to roll back all of those plans.
Okay, so let's go from there. And I know Angela's already started talking about it, but Robin, why don't you just continue and talk about, how have the tariffs impacted your business, in whatever way you want to describe that?
So it's been pretty devastating. So I do manufacture some products here in the US. When I first started 15 years ago, there were certain products that there were manufacturing plants here that could handle what I needed them to do. So I do have some here, and then I have some in China. Even the ones that are manufactured here in the US, they've gone up 40%. And it is because some of the raw materials come from China and some of the machinery that they use to produce these products come from China. So I asked them like in January, the price is going to go up, and they had assured me they weren't. And then a 40% hit was huge. So we had to, I had to make up for the cost on that. And some of my products, I can only raise the price so much before they're just not going to sell. I'm in the home and pet space. And so it's not like, a big fancy car, people are going to buy it anyway. They're going to cut back on certain things like decorative items for their home. So I can't really absorb all of that cost. And the products that I get from China, the issue I'm dealing with right now is I don't know what the tariffs will be, and I don't know when they'll change. So if I put an order into China, it takes them 2 to 3 months to say, get it ready and get it onto the dock. As soon as it gets on that container, if he changes his mind, if the administration changes their mind anytime and the tariffs hit, I'm responsible. I can't, if it's still at the warehouse, I can say, fine, I'm not gonna, pay that last bill and they won't ship the goods. But once they're on the container, I'm responsible to pay that tariff. I can't just say I don't want the goods anymore, I can't afford them. And some of those bills, they'll put me out of business. I mean, I would have to, mortgage my house to pay a $500,000 fee that we would get. So it's really put us in a bad position because I'm just at a standstill right now. I don't know what to do.
I see both Angela and Emily nodding along with you. So Emily, how I'm sure you're experiencing similar, but tell us how, how this has impacted Simplified with the tariffs, the on again, off again, the amounts, anything.
I think it's such a good point that Robin brought up, that the uncertainty of it all and the constant changing. I mean, there were days where we were asking attorneys, we were asking brokers, import experts, like what exactly are the tariffs right now? Because it was so confusing. And we have had to take, for instance, my chief operating officer, her name is Brittany. She's incredible, been with me a decade. I had to take her entire role and pivot her rather than, managing all these growth opportunities that we had, these big goals that we had for this year. We have a team of 8 women, so small but mighty. But I had to take her and pivot her all the way into suddenly sourcing in other countries. We can't produce it here in America. We've tried, we just can't. Um, we were getting new quotes from the manufacturers that we were currently with saying like, what can we do? Can we, for instance, our signature simplified planners come in these beautiful presentation boxes, and it keeps them safe, but it's also just a really nice packaging. All of those had to go. We've looked at changing the paper quality. I mean, we've had to change so many things. So she was out getting quotes for the entire first half of this year from countries who were suddenly also hit with tariffs, from Chinese manufacturers that we were hoping might be able to work with us. And so, you know, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of focus it's taken away from everything else that we were doing. I mean, I don't think people realize how much work goes into something like that, especially with the lead time. I mean, for us, we produce everything all at once. So for next year's order, we're putting everything into place or putting the order into production on July 1st. And we're receiving it everything in January. And just like you said, Robin, we don't know what they're going to be in January if the president, if the administration is implementing tariffs, when they feel like it. And so that uncertainty has been really difficult for us to navigate.
And Angela, you already kind of touched on this, but how has this impacted Bamboo?
Yeah, so very similar to Emily and Robin. We don't know. It's the sporadic and the the ability not having the ability to strategize that's really affecting the business. So there's opportunities, yes, to look and see if there are other places to manufacture. We looked at other countries and we realized that some of those countries could produce the product, but they were still sourcing their fabric from China. So we did find a local company here in the US that manufactured in Los Angeles that happened to have my specific formula of fabric in their warehouse. And they said, well, we could probably cover the gap for you for a few months, but this is all we have and we don't plan to order more because we don't want to pay that tariff. Once they made and this is in terms of my pajamas, once they made the pajama sample, they doubled the cost of what I would have paid for that pajama to make it here in the United States without ever being impacted by tariffs on the fabric. So that just said to me, if I'm not willing to double the cost to my customer or something close to it, there's really no opportunity for me to be able to manufacture in the US. And we looked at other countries, and I'll tell you, with the sporadic decisions being made, it's causing us to make some sporadic decisions, and that's just not how I do business. But I went to another country and I looked at having my pajamas made there. They made me some samples. They sent me the samples. They weren't great. I had to keep working with them to get them to where I wanted them to be. And then once we got there, I sent the deposit and they ghosted me. And that was because we moved too fast. And so these are the decisions that we're making, hard decisions to try to stay in the lane and try to be able to manufacture, to be able to, to serve our consumer. But we're either one, going to lose some customers because we're having to raise the price, or two, risk not producing at the same level of quality that my customers expect, or we're going to have big gaps in inventory. And that's what I'm experiencing now.
And one thing I think, Angela, when you and I were speaking, and I'm sure everybody else can chime in on this, is how far you have to plan ahead. And I mean, I think this is common sense, but it didn't really dawn on me, not being a business owner. I go to the store at the holidays and I'm buying my stuff for my kids. I mean, you guys are planning this now, or probably you've already been planning for holiday sales. Like, how far in advance do you really have to like make these decisions about purchasing inventory?
Absolutely. So I tend to buy right now just because I've, scaled the business back considerably. If I was able to put in an order for a holiday, that order would have had to have been in the first week of July. And so that means now I'm looking at my holiday revenue and I'm slashing it. So, as I've done with my spring and my fall, I'm slashing those numbers because I can't meet the demand of the holiday. And for us, for small businesses, for a lot of businesses, the holiday is our, Super Bowl. We can bank on 40–50% in revenue during that time. So if I can't have the inventory on the shelves to be able to sell to meet the demand, I can pretty much say that my 2025 is going to be a very lackluster year for me, which then means I have to decide, am I able to support going into 2026?
And I don't know, Emily or Robin, if you guys want to comment on anything about that, just about the planning and ordering ahead. I mean, there's just, if you don't own a small business, you may not really think about all that goes into, getting your products to market.
Yeah, I have products that are specifically for the summertime, so I design and get those manufactured in January. And then, so I'm always a year behind. So right now, yeah, we're in a position where whatever I have right now is what will be sold during the holiday season. There's no opportunity at the moment for me to really bring in new product when I don't know what the tariffs will be. So I still have inventory left for this year. Next January is when it's really going to affect me.
Yeah, where it's the same for us too. It takes 6 to 9 months from the time we put in a purchase order to get it, especially when you're working with paper. The interesting thing for us is what we make is dated, and so it's like selling food. So we need it for a certain time period, and if it's still there, if we're charging too much, if we've had to raise prices to a place, like you said, that is just untenable to a consumer, which is where we are, we have to eat it. So it's not a fun place to be.
So Emily, let's talk about the decisions you all have had to make based on the tariffs and the uncertainty. So what is the toughest decision that you've had to make in response to these challenges?
The toughest decision I had to make was I willing to put my face and my name on a lawsuit, on the first lawsuit, challenging this. I just felt like there was no other way forward. I have a daughter, I have 2 boys. It was time for me to stand up and speak our truth and fight for what was right. Congress has the legal authority to impose tariffs, not the president. And I'm glad we did it. I've had the opportunity, like with things like this, to share the truth of it all. It all kind of started for me with just seeing the misinformation out there. People don't understand who pays the tariffs because our leaders, many of them, are telling people that the other countries are paying them. Well, no, I've signed the checks. I know that I could be raising salaries for my American workers. I could be investing in American charity. We do a lot of charitable work for women and children organizations. We could be pouring money into that, but I can't. I've had to cut all of our charitable giving this year. Today was the last day for one of the girls who works with me because I can't continue to pay salaries for American workers. I mean, we've had to make some awful choices. I would say the hardest choice I've had to make is staffing. The women who work with me are remarkable women, and they've been with me, many of them, for a long time, um, upwards of 13, 14, 15 years. So yeah.
What about you, Angela, in terms of tough decisions or the tough, what do you think's been the toughest decision you've had to make?
I think first and foremost, it would be the people that are impacted. It's not just when I'm making decisions, it's not just for me. It's for the people that I employ. For the organizations that I support. It's for the community that I reside in. And small business is the lifeblood of the United States. And with decisions like this, it's affecting all of us. And those decisions trickle up, they trickle down. And just like Emily said, people weren't realizing, especially in the beginning, people weren't realizing the impact that these decisions were making on small businesses and therefore on the homes of everybody that purchases goods. But the way that I have been explaining it to people, one, I put in the time. I go to DC and talk to lawmakers, making sure that they hear from the boots on the ground how these decisions are impacting the small businesses. And I also make sure that when I explain it to people, that I explain it at a level where they really get a chance to understand it. It's not what in the beginning, it wasn't what they were hearing on the news. It wasn't what they were reading in the papers. What I explained to them was, imagine you went to Costco and you filled up your cart with all those big bulk items that you need for your house. You got to the counter, you paid your bill, and then on the way out the door, the greeter says, okay, let me see your receipt. I need 30% to get this receipt out, or I need 145% in the beginning to get your goods out the door. That's the impact that it's having on small business. A lot of us do not have funds available to be able to make snap decisions like that. Like, okay, well, I guess I have to pay that bill. We don't have it. And so like if we don't have it, we don't get it. So we may invest all that we have to manufacture these products and then have to abandon them at the dock. I mean, that's just a very sobering decision to have to make in running a business. And I never thought that when I developed this business, when I designed this business, that was going to be one of the hardest decisions that I had to make, was making inventory. I thought that was the easy thing because I knew that I had created a product that people love. I created a product that people need. And to have to be in a position where I can't provide that product because the country I built my business in has decided that it wants more of what I'm producing. So
Robin, I'm going to turn to you, and I would love to hear from you. And by the way, thank you. That Costco example, really
Yeah.
very clear. I think that makes it really easy for people to understand. Robin, talk about tough decisions that you've had to make. And then I also want to move on and talk a little bit about like this is a obviously professional toll, but it has to have taken a personal toll. And I know you wanted to touch on that specifically. So
Yeah, so again, during the summer, I usually hire college students, get together with them to fill my warehouse because that's when the containers are coming in to do graphic art. So I've had to stop that program that I usually like to do over the summer for the college students. It's taken a real toll on myself because I'm questioning if I can keep going. Because in addition to the tariffs, there are the cuts that the federal government has made to the subsidies to the Affordable Care Act. And most small business owners, especially if they're small enough, they get their insurance through the Affordable Care Act. And my insurance is going to go up 85% because that's how much my state gets in federal subsidies. And I'm having to ask myself, can I continue this small business that has been providing for my family? Or do I have to go out and go back to the corporate world that I left 15 years ago so that my family has health insurance and we can pay our bills? And that would feel like such a failure to me when it's nothing that I've done. My business has been very successful over the last few years, and I have been able to provide for my family. And so knowing that the administration is not for small businesses, it almost seems intentional. And even if it's not, it's the result. Small businesses are closing down.
mhm.
And it's really upsetting to have to go to your family and say, listen, I might have to close my doors. I might have to go get, a job working for a corporation that I don't want to work for. It's not where my passion is. And so I think that we've asked the Small Business Administration to make a carve out for small businesses like some of these large corporations are getting, but they will not even hear it. They will not listen to us getting that carve out. And so I find it just to be extremely frustrating, and I feel like it's intentional.
Julie,
I say ditto
oh,
to
go,
everything
Angela.
that Robin just said. Ditto to everything she said.
You have more you want to say about that?
Everything. Yeah, I mean, it is intentional. It is intentional. And like I said, I could get on a soapbox here, but I won't. But it is intentional, especially when you look at the fact that the Small Business Administration is not sticking up for the small business. I mean, they are there to support us. They're there to be our voice in the room, and it's just not happening. A lot, what I love to see is that a lot of us small businesses are getting up and we are standing up and we're making our voices heard. But understand that that comes with a cost, because when every time I'm on CNN or on a local channel of news, I'm going to get a whole lot of hate from people that do not understand what's going on. And I'm putting my family out there, I'm putting myself out there, but I feel like it's something that I have to do because I don't see the lawmakers putting themselves out there to stand up for the small business. There's a lot that we do for the good of the country by building small businesses, and it just doesn't seem to be appreciated. And you have to wonder why. You have to wonder, what is the benefit if you cut all of these small businesses at the knees?
I'm gonna get a headache from shaking my head so hard when you guys talk because I, this gets me so fired up. How many women started companies after the financial collapse of 2008? Because I wrote a Substack post about this because I was so fired up about it. The impossible math of modern motherhood and womanhood, because we are being asked to do so many impossible things. So many of us decided after that collapse, we are going to create the jobs that the world can't give us. We are gonna work hard. We're gonna make it happen. And what kills me now is that women in particular are being impacted so awfully by all of this. It is just, I could go on and on and on, but um, there's, in terms of small businesses in the United States, 45% are owned by women. 77% of companies in the United States of importers employ less than 20 people. So, like you said, small businesses, women-owned businesses, it feels targeted.
Do you want to touch anything else on personal toll for you, beside obviously the professional toll you've already discussed?
Oh, it's, just like Angela said, personally, it's a little bit scary to put yourself out there in such a way. I've done a lot of national and international media, especially around the lawsuit. And we've gotten some phone calls. I got a simplified planner sent to me to my house in the mail, covered in political stickers that I did not agree with. Don't know how they got my address, some things like that. But I just like both of you guys have said, I don't see my lawmakers standing up and saying anything. And so, me as a person who has a voice, who's on the receiving end of some of these media calls, I feel like it's my duty to make my voice heard. When had Congress been involved in implementing these tariffs the way that they were in 2018, I didn't agree with them in 2018, but he went about it the right way back then. Doing it the way that they did it this time, I was not able to have my voice heard at all because it was from the top. Congress wasn't involved. But then where's Congress? So anyway, I don't know. That's the personal toll here.
Well, Robin, I'm going to go to you. That was kind of leading right. You guys kind of are great. You're leading me right into the next question, which is, and you've already mentioned that the policymakers, the people who elected officials are not listening, and Small Business Administration. Why do you think the small businesses are being left out of this national conversation on trade policy?
Honestly, I think it goes back to the attack on women. When I started this, I mentioned that it was part of a mom entrepreneur group. There were many women in that group that were stay-at-home moms that did not want to go back to the corporate world. There were moms that were in troubling marriages, troubling relationships, and this was their lifeline to get out. And women only get about 1% of the venture capital to start their businesses. So most women's businesses are small because they have to be. I started mine with $200 and it had, it skyrocketed from there, but nobody was going to invest in my company. They just don't go to women as much as they do to men. And there is a targeted approach to go after women in the workforce. I really believe that. And I'm sure the other women can say, when we hire women to work for us, we give them more flexible hours. We're more understanding when they have to take off time for their kids. We have a personal relationship with them because they're not just replaceable to us. They're human beings with families, and women don't have to show up to my company and pretend they don't have a family. And so I think it's part of a much larger strategy to take options away from women. That's really what I feel is behind this, and to put us back to working for billionaire corporations and make us reliant on the billionaire corporations for our health care and to pay our bills, and they will decide, what we get paid and what hours we work. I think that they would like less entrepreneurs, especially women in this country. I really feel that that's a target of theirs.
Well, we had an event not long ago on Tradwise, which was really the push, the Christian nationalist push to push the traditional values and women in the home and raising children and not being in the workforce. So, Angela, I think we're all nodding along at everything everyone's saying, but what are your thoughts on why small business is being left out of the conversation, or why elected officials are ignoring your voices?
Uh, the first concern I had when all of this happened was like Emily said, where's Congress? I mean, there's a clear, process that should happen, and the fact that the decision was made, skipped over Congress to make the decision, and then Congress didn't come behind and say, hey, 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 you can't do that. That was never done. So now you're leaving it to you're feeding the information as you want it to be disseminated, the information, oh, we're gonna get, stick it to the countries and get our money back. And, that that to me was a clear directive that there is a method to this madness and it's going to be done regardless. I have had the pleasure of speaking directly to the senators from my state. Senator Warnock did actually take Bamboo to one of the finance committee meetings and ask what's going to be done for small businesses like Bamboo. Angela came to my office last week, and these are the concerns that she had as a small business owner. So we did have him to do that. Beyond that, I don't I don't see what the plan is. And at this point, we're in July, about to, we're heading into August tomorrow. We've seen this happening in April. Where are the lawmakers with the solutions that are stepping up to the plate? I mean, by now we should have had something. We have these people are suing the administration, but that's us. That's us. So where are the decision makers, the people that we elected into office to make the decisions and to stand for their constituents? Where are they in their powers to be able to get them to reverse some of this? It's really confusing to me, because I when you really think about it, it's showing us how much power we actually have. And so that's really scary.
Emily, I mean, you're involved in a lawsuit, so you're obviously stepping up and trying to make an impact on this. Any thoughts on, just the loss of voice of small business? And, obviously, let's turn this a little bit too. I see people kind of commenting, and I don't want to leave this all doom and gloom. I want to know, like, how do we, um, push back on this? How do we support small businesses? And obviously, pressuring your elected officials is a good way to start. But tell me, more if you want about the lawsuit, or how, what your
Sure.
thoughts are on this topic.
Our lawsuit made it all the way to the Court of International Trade. It's stayed right now, which means it's paused while you may have heard there was a hearing today in the appeals court in DC. It's a case, it's Voss Wines and four other plaintiffs, that the hearing was about the appeal. They won the case, the government appealed, and now that's all being heard. The decision in that case will likely impact ours because we're arguing similar but not the same things. Um, but I mean, kind of like I think Angela said, if it gets shot down, nobody's following the rules. If the courts say, "Hey, you can't do this," it's going to get done another way. I do feel like small businesses are being targeted. I think women and minority-owned brands are being targeted. I think that, um, a lot of people in the chat have mentioned that this is a way of pushing us back and making us small and taking away what little power we do have. We don't have as a small business owner with three kids and a whole lot of full-time jobs I'm doing over here. I'm just trying to keep the doors open and the lights on and the kids fed. And I'm not involved in the lobbying, the money that's going in and out of DC. I got to go up there and meet with our attorneys and a bunch of media back in May, and just the webs that are woven up there are wild. But I'm not part of that. I'm just a small business owner trying to sell beautiful planners and paper goods and live out my American dream. My feet are getting knocked out from under me now. What kills me is that if Simplified goes down, it's not going to be because we failed or because our customers didn't show up. It's going to be because our leaders didn't show up and our government failed us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Robin, any thoughts on terms of like, I would definitely like to give people some thoughts on what they could do to help, support your businesses, other small businesses. Where do we find the small businesses? Any suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I sell on Amazon and I sell on Walmart. And I'm going to tell you, I know I get a lot of pushback. People say, I hate Amazon, and I get it. And they want to boycott it. But I'm going to explain to you that 15 years ago, I used to sell to 20 different online stores. I sold to a lot of brick and mortar stores. They've all gone away because Amazon put them out of business. But what you can find on Amazon that you're not going to find at your big box stores, you're going to find small and minority owned businesses. A lot of them have a small business tag. If you click on the store that's selling the product, you can see that it's a US based small business. And so I encourage people to seek out those companies on Amazon and Walmart. You can see that they have small businesses there, because some of us are getting lost because they're boycotting, say, Amazon, but you're still going to buy your Bounty paper towels, right? You're still going to buy your big things that you need every day. But the smaller businesses are getting lost, and we're getting hit on both sides because the brick and mortar stores have closed, or there's not as many of them. That industry is a little bit. They're also getting hit, and then you have a lot of online stores that don't exist. And I used to sell on my own website, but Amazon put that all out of business years ago, and so that's the only place for us to go. So my store is called Robin's Aria on Amazon.com. And so if you can check that out, I would greatly appreciate that. But also look, they have the tags for minority and small owned and women owned businesses. Just seek those out. You will find really great products, quality products, that are not, just junk, and that women and minority groups have put their heart and soul into creating. And it's a place where we can still sell.
Thank you. I did not know about those tags, and I think that's really important because I know so many of us do want to go out there and support the small businesses and try to leave the big corporations a little behind. Angela, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I sell online. I have a Shopify store. It's bamboo.co. And I also sell on Walmart, but I don't promote it as much because there's just an issue. So, but I would say that how you can support is really looking for the small businesses and look to support them and have grace, because we are going through something that's real. We are going through something that we've never planned for. And so if the inventory is low, or if the processes are not moving as quickly, if you're not getting your order as quickly as you would get it from an Amazon, understand that that staff is probably a lot smaller than what it started out to be. And that business owner is probably doing all that they can to fulfill that order, because it's that order that's going to keep those doors open. So when you think about time to buy for holidays or buy gifts, look at a small business. When you're looking at a small business website and they don't exactly have the color you want, consider the alternate color, because it it still could be great. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of small businesses making a lot of hard decisions right now. And one thing I would just say, just give grace.
Emily, anything else from you on that?
I just think it's important for us to vote, make our voices heard with our dollars. If there are some things, like you mentioned, bounty paper towels, we're going to get those where we get them. But when it comes to gift giving, when it comes to buying, whatever, taking the extra time, maybe waiting a little longer than what Prime would be if you're ordering from, Amazon and not really looking at tags. But I've had to say the same thing about Amazon, and we're in Target and we're in Walmart. We Amazon made it to where we had to join. Like we had to take advantage of some of the programs that they offer, which have been good for us. Simplified's Amazon store is not open yet. We're working on it, but I think it's really important to seek those out and then just continue to put our money, do the research, take the time to do the research and see where we're buying from and who we're supporting.
Okay, well, I am going to, I know there are questions in the chat. I think Julie can nod her yes. I can see her up there, yes, there are questions in the chat. Anything you want to say before I turn it over to Julie for Q&A from the chat here? Anything, any final statements?
Just
Nope.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Every time we get a platform where we can come in and tell our stories, that it makes a real difference. And for the people that joined, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and hear the real stories of what's going on with small business.
Perfect. All right. Well, I am going to bring Julie up then, and we will get going on the questions that you all are dropping in the chat. I'm going to say this right now because we've had this happen at other events. If you do have a question, we will try to get to as many as we can. Please put it in the chat. We just find it more efficient to do it that way than have people raise their hand and unmute. So drop your questions in the chat, and I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
All right. Well, you've talked a lot about some things that folks could do. The first question that came up in the chat was, what kinds of discrimination as women did you face before this all started? But I also need to let you know that apparently while we have been talking this evening, the tariff on Canada is supposed to go up from 25 to 35%. Apparently that was just signed into an effect as well. So, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, you have talked about the things that we could do. Somebody just asked if it says, can we join the lawsuit? So I know that there are other business owners on this call. So I'm assuming that they're a business owner that is asking that, because I'm assuming that a regular person would not have standing to join your lawsuit, but maybe another business. Is there a way that they can join, to make your class action bigger, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are represented by the New Civil Liberties Alliance out of DC. So I would recommend, especially if you're in Florida, all of the companies that have joined our lawsuit are Florida-based businesses, just because of jurisdiction. Reach out to them. I'm not really sure how it works, but reach out to them. I know that they did just file another lawsuit about the tariffs from Texas as well.
Is the lawsuit filed in the state of Florida, or is it filed in DC? How does that work?
Well, it was filed in the state of Florida, in the North Florida district, but it got moved to the Court of International Trade, and so I'm not sure how that jurisdiction works now that it's been moved.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So somebody also asked in the chat, why is it that you have to have these products made in other countries? What makes it hard to make the products here? Is it a function of it's just too expensive to make here? I know there were other things that, I'd heard about that actually the materials to make the products were not here, like gypsum as an example. And potash that you use when you're planting things and farmers use, that also is not, those products are actually not in this country at all. They are in Canada and Mexico, so they are subject to tariffs. So is that what's going on with your things? Like Angela, I know you're doing bamboo. We don't have bamboo here, do we?
We don't have the manufacturing process to take it from the plant to the fabric. There are some companies that are trying it, but they just haven't perfected the process. So the process is still in research and development, or it just isn't at the level that China is able to produce it. And I will say this about just on a blanket statement about why most businesses don't produce here. In the 70s and 80s, the U.S. Sent a lot of the manufacturing offshore. They closed down a lot of those manufacturing plants. They moved the machinery, they moved the labor, everything. So we no longer have the infrastructure to manufacture a lot of products in the US. It was better for the US in terms of dollars to be able to have it manufactured in these countries that had cheap labor. These countries that had cheap labor took that manufacturing opportunity, and they invested in their infrastructure. They built up these businesses, they hired the people, they educated the people, they bought the equipment, and they made manufacturing great for their country. So now, so much so now that we are beholden to them to get the things that we used to produce here onshore. In order to bring it back, it's going to take time. You can't just flip a switch and bring manufacturing back onshore. There are a lot of companies that make pieces and parts of products, but there aren't any companies that make most of the products of the people that I know, for bags, for instance, I have a friend that makes luxury bags. There's 16 different parts to that bag that are brought in to make that bag. You cannot manufacture all 16 of those parts in the US. And so that's sadly, that's where we are when it comes to manufacturing. We just don't have the infrastructure. And for most of us small businesses, we feel like we're being punished or taxed because we're not manufacturing in the US. And in reality, most of us can't.
Well, and you brought up a point about how you can't just start manufacturing here tomorrow. You know, it would take, I've heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, 5 to 10 years to create some of the plants, if we even have the product. Again, if we even have the product here, which some things we don't have the product here at all, you know, so that would be, we'd still have to import
And you
something.
have to think of like all of us, we have a small business. If I opened up a factory to produce my particular product, it would be open for 1 month out of the entire year. I
Right.
don't make enough product that I would be producing all year long. So the large companies, they're the ones who are getting the tariff exemptions, but they're the ones that could actually build the factory. I don't have $1 million to open up a factory and run it for 1 month out of the year. So that's part of the problem. I manufacture products in the US when I can, but there are just some things that they're just not here. The machinery, the materials, and people like to say that this is unskilled labor. It's not. It's very skilled labor. The
Oh,
people,
yeah.
we can't just, hire people here to do it. These people have been doing it for many, many years. They're trained, they're professionals. I know that they get paid less but than people maybe would get paid here, but that does not mean that they're unskilled.
Mhm.
Someone just asked if there was bullet points somewhere where they could, you know, like call their legislators, you know, to talk about this.
You can check out my Pull-Ups Pasta Politics Instagram and TikTok. I do videos about small business from time to time, and you can check out my small business tab, and there'll be things there that you can call up your Congress and senators and tell them, this is, a particular thing that you want to advocate for and get them to advocate for small businesses.
NRF also has a link on their website, National Retail Federation, where you can actually, they have a template where you can insert your points or your story, but it's set up so that it makes it easy for you to do so. It's set up to also go to the representatives, the lawmakers that represent your area, and it also helps you kind of guide you through the process of putting a well thought out letter together.
Someone asks, should folks protest the SBA?
Oh, yeah.
Really helping us. So
They are not helping us at all, which is sad. I actually was trying to put together meetings in DC for Small Business Week back in May. I had a whole Instagram series I designed and I was doing with kind of like you said, with points about how this is impacting small businesses, the percentage of businesses owned by women and that sort of thing, and did not even realize that they are actually against us.
Yes,
They're advertising that this is a great win for small businesses, which if you've listened to
exactly.
anything we said tonight, is actually a death sentence for many. So yes, that is a great idea.
That is an excellent idea. I actually met with Administrator Loeffler on April 2nd, right before she went to the Rose Garden, to get the information on the changes that were being made. And there was probably, I think, 5 business owners in the room, and we poured out our hearts and souls to, plead with her to bring our stories to the table and represent us well. And her response was, "Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. Well, there's not really much I can do because I'm on my way to the Rose Garden to hear it now." It's like, wait a minute, the fight is not over.
Oof.
And then just a couple of weeks later, if you read the SBA website, she was saying that there's no that every small business I'm talking to is it thinks it's a great thing. And I was just like, but what about the meeting we just had? It was as if we didn't even exist, and that kind of set the stage for me to let me know what it meant, what our small business meant to the Small Business Administration. They made a lot of changes in the recent days. Small businesses that took out EIDL loans and had hardship repayment plans put in place while we were trying to figure out the tariff situation, they were all canceled in the dead of night. No one even knew. So that meant that you were no longer paying a portion of that bill, you were paying the whole thing. And in some cases, I know some small businesses where they call the entire loan due because they did something like went from an LLC to an S corp. And they said, well, you can't do that without telling us, so we're going to call the whole loan due. And things like that it's just not how you support small business.
No, see, I think the Small Business Administration knows exactly what we're going through because like you
Yeah.
said, you went down with the NRF. Many people have spoken to the Small Business Administration. Many of our Congress people have questioned Loeffler directly and told her these stories. They're playing that they pretend they don't know, and that's how they get away with it. But they know exactly what's happening to small businesses. They just don't care.
Right.
Wow. So when you all have, I know someone mentioned Rep. Warnock or Senator Warnock, but have you all talked with your reps and senators, and what do they say to you when they do hear your stories? Are they just turning a deaf ear like the woman that you just spoke of, or you know, is there a pocket that's willing to help or a caucus that's willing to help?
So I had a meeting last week. I did an Instagram live with Congresswoman Catherine Clark. She's also the Democratic whip. And I explained to her what was going on with the small business. And I asked her if she thought it was intentional. And she said that she thinks it is. And she said, even if it's not intentional, it's the impact that it's having. So even if they didn't mean to hurt small businesses, which I find hard to believe, it is hurting small businesses. And the facts show that. So the Congress people I have spoken to are aware of it. Senator Warren, I've had calls with her. She's very much aware of it. She talks about it a lot. But I don't know that there's much they can do about it right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've met with whenever I go to DC, a lot of my the Congress people or even the senators that I'm working with or I'm meeting with are Democrats. And a lot of them will say, we got your back, we're on your side, but they don't have the votes and they don't have it appears that they don't have the power. So when we try to get into the offices of the Republican representatives, they're just not taking our meetings.
No.
And that's where we need to be. We need to give our stories to the people who are not seeing the impact or who are not recognizing the impact.
So
Well,
I'm in Florida, which is fun. And I have reached out to our representatives here via their websites, via email, phone calls, and have received nothing in return.
someone else mentioned the media. So, and I know that, we have varying forms and things out there, and folks are saying, get this on YouTube, which all of our recordings do go on YouTube. But how do we get this to really be talked about in this manner on national news so that people really understand what is happening? Because I don't think that this is being covered at that level.
I think
Well, CNN, Jake Tapper is actually doing a really good job with his platform. He brings on a different small business every day. And he lets them come on and talk about their business and talk about the impacts. So I would love to see more people with a platform do that. Give us an opportunity because we are small businesses, which means we don't have the money to put into big campaigns and things like that. But there are companies there are media outlets out there that do have an opportunity to speak and raise our platform a little bit for us.
I also see that, connections like this with Red, Wine, and Blue, connections with the people that are in your life, sometimes that makes a bigger impact than things on the national news. So I want to see more coverage on the national news, but I think it's important for the people watching this and connecting with this call to talk to the people in your life, to share these stories with everyone that you know, share them online, share them in person so that people hear this, because when people hear from somebody of their real story of a small business and what we're going through, it makes much more of an impact with somebody than maybe hearing it from a national news per se. Because if we're not going to get the coverage there, this is where we need to get it in groups like this. So
Yep.
I really appreciate people listening to these stories.
Absolutely.
Because of the lawsuit, excuse me, because of our lawsuit, I have done every major news outlet, from the BBC to even Fox News. I mean, and I've said yes to even the ones that made me uncomfortable, or maybe that I don't, wouldn't picture myself going on, even at like 4 a.m. in the morning for time zone reasons, because every chance we have to share our stories, every single chance matters. But I will say, just like you said, Robin, being in groups like this, it's so powerful because you guys can take our stories and tell them in your conversations. You can share them on social media. Just getting the truth out there in as many ways as we can is what really matters.
Well, and that's amazing because we are all about relational organizing here at Red, Wine, and Blue, and that is really what we are very much about. So that you all just, you all did the commercial for us. But and you are absolutely 100% correct. It is way more effective for folks to talk to the people that are in their phones than and their friends and family than it is for it to be seen on, a national platform. Just sometimes it's nice to have a boost too, though, with those
All
things.
of it.
So that's why I did ask the question. But you are absolutely correct in the fact that it does need to be spread by everybody who is on this call. Absolutely.
A lot of the
And we have,
national channels now are afraid, they don't want to, so that's something that we're fighting against too. They're afraid
Mhm.
to speak up and show that they're on a side.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can't trust 60 Minutes, that's really sad. But we are at time, and I'm going to call Julie back up. Thank you, ladies. This was very, very, very informative, and that's what a lot of the folks in the chat also said. So, thank you, and Julie. I'll kick it back to you.
Oh, I think my husband just dropped a dish. Okay, I'm gonna stop the chat just for 1 second because I would like to put a bunch of information in there. So, number one is our 160 ways guide to change the world without losing your shit. So, this is a way to just take action in your local community, and we are all about local organizing. So, I also have dropped our "When they go low, we go local" about why local organizing is so impactful. Especially, I know if you're in Virginia or New Jersey, you guys got big elections. But most elections right now are going to be school board, city council, and that is where we can make a really huge impact. We know from what we've heard tonight, a lot of our elected officials at the federal level aren't listening to us, so we can really make that big impact. We can also start bringing people in, so when it is time to vote this year and next year, we can make a huge difference. We need to be organizing now. The other thing I dropped in the chat is our link to our resources page, so you can find all the businesses of our speakers, you can find their bios, you can find their social media to follow them. And obviously they already sold this for us. The biggest thing you can be doing is talking to your friends and family about this. Talk about what you heard, share the video recording. I am 100% certain that our video team is going to be taking clips from the brilliant things that have come out of our speakers' mouths tonight to turn into social media content. So please share that far and wide. So all right, I will start the chat again because I'm sure people want to say thank you and goodbye. And so thank you so much to Angela and Robin and Emily for joining us, for sharing your stories. It was really very impactful and very powerful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for the platform.
Thank you.
Everybody have a really great evening, and we will talk to y'all soon.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.